Hello, this is Eddie Barragon, here to give my presentation on how to build relationships in an online learning environment, how to transition from a traditional physical learning environment to an online learning environment-based structure. Thank you. So, as human beings, learning is inherently an important, if intangible, aspect that promotes the development of long-lasting relationships and help in that sense. Learning is not only empirical, it is also an emotional process, right? To be able to connect to our instructors and our peers, to be able to have that feedback mechanism. That's the purpose of relationships, is to help with that entire process overall and to help us build those logical and emotional connections that aid in our overall long-term success. Having those connections is, for a lot of students, um, even the main factor of what determines their academic or learning success. So it's critical to incorporate relationship building in their overall learning journey. So I look at practicing this and forming relationships with people by three main core examples or ideas the first being anecdotes or personal experiences or stories or connections to the subject matter. When a student gives an example that affected them personally to use as an example for themselves or to the instructor or the class as a whole, that adds an element of perspective. It adds an element of understanding for not only themselves but for everybody else involved. That it does have real world implications, whatever it may be. That there is more going on than just learning something in a book or reading something on a piece of paper or watching a video with information being given to them. Forming those bonds, those personal connections, through anecdotes, through telling of personal experiences, sharing those deep emotional processes, right? That is crucial to long-term learning success for a lot of people. And for an instructor, the best way is to teach by example. What I mean by that is instructors, within reason, within respectable reason, should always be able to give a bit of themselves in their instruction, use something from their past or from their own learning history, and being able to incorporate that into the class. Use that as an example. Use that as a means to communicate to your students, this is what I did. This is what I did correctly or incorrectly, and what I learned from it. That adds a world of benefit to many students. So tying in what I said earlier, um, one of the main benefits that forming personal bonds and relationships with other people in an online learning environment or physical learning environment for that matter is it helps instructors in their teaching methodology, the way an instructor approaches a class or an individual student, something either more personal or something more tied into the subject matter through a shared experience, right? That's something that's very beneficial for both the learner and the student, the professor, and having that ability to have the instructor change their methodology. I've already gone over personal experiences and connections and how that helps gain perspective for a lot of people. And also, another key issue that I'll touch on a little bit more later on is how it gives instructors the ability to approach diverse situations and issues that arise in the classroom. Whether a student is more interpersonally connected to whatever the subject matter is, whether it be an issue or a historical event or just a personal experience that's relevant to the discussion. Those are the main ways that I feel that it benefits instructors mostly, really, is learning from our students how how to best present the information, how to best receive information, how to best adapt our information to the situation. And students are very good at that. I've been in many classes where I'm on the receiving end as a student. The path of the class changed due to the involvement and personal bonds that the professor had with us and wanted to have with us. So there's that. So this touches a little bit further on what I was discussing earlier, and that is differing viewpoints. Diversity is key. This is a globalized world we live in. I'm a multicultural, multi-ethnic student. I'm Hispanic. My racial organization is I'm mostly Native American. I have a lot of European on my mother's side, Russian, Middle Eastern, Central Asian. My father is Tarascan Native American from Mexico, a tribe from Mexico. A lot of people don't know that. But yes, we have tribes. We have Native American reservations, and well, not necessarily reservations, but a lot of the same history that the U.S. had. Fun fact: a lot of Native Americans were deported to Mexico during the 18 and 1900s, especially after the Mexican-American War. That's just one example, my own personal story of how there's going to be differences in viewing of historical events, of backgrounds, of personal histories, and how to best approach those situations. You know, if I had a student or a professor or instructor challenge me on these things, well, you know, and I've been in that situation before where I'd share information and it doesn't really align with what a person may believe or may misunderstand, and they would argue or challenge me on, you know, my own personal fact-based history. And understanding as an instructor how to do that is very important, because, you know, not only do you as an instructor have to adapt to the situation and gain the proper perspective and be able to teach a class, but the student has to learn from you, right? If you're not in the proper headspace, how can your students be? And understanding and accepting and acknowledging different perspectives and viewpoints is imperative to meeting that goal. And in conclusion, I just want to tie up my main points before about differing viewpoints and how a Christian worldview could fit into that mold. It is important, it is valuable, it is something that should be respected and acknowledged. I don't want to say be given priority to, because, you know, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about differing and diverse viewpoints, right? There's a lot of people who aren't Christian. There's a lot of people who are Muslim, Buddhist. There's a lot of people who are practicing pagans, Wiccans that I know personally. There's a lot of people who are agnostic, atheist, secular humanist. And there's a lot of people, I mean, I've met and befriended quite a few people who fully consider themselves and call themselves Satanists. Whatever religious practices that may entail, I do not know. But while the Christian perspective is a notable and critical one, especially for our program, I think in the broader scale worldview, it is a part of the larger scale differing and worldviews, right? And place, it has its place in this world, and there are many other perspectives and viewpoints that have equal merit in this worldview. And yeah, that's where I stand on that in conclusion. And so thank you for listening to my presentation. I appreciate the feedback and the criticism and the acknowledgement of my presentation. In conclusion, you know, final thoughts. Forming personal relationships is one of the most important things we can do towards academic and interpersonal success. And I look forward to developing more in this class and program overall. Thank you. This has been Eddie Barragon.